Ready. Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning,
Thanks.
if you are where Sarah is. Actually, Sarah, where exactly are you?
I'm in Maryland. So for those who aren't from America, we live about 3 miles from Washington, D.C. in the White House.
Oh, wow.
All
Okay.
yes, we're not far from it.
So you're neighbors, basically, with the Bidens.
Yes, yes. We a bit quieter neighbors than before, but it's still always fun. I don't watch the news much these days.
Yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there was a removal van there a couple of years ago, and well, anyway, let's not get too sidetracked, shall we, Sarah? Listen, first of all, Sarah Borwell, who are you?
Well, I'm a former British tennis player. I don't play as much now. I get asked that question a lot, actually. Do I still like to play? And I think all the years of playing, it's not something I choose to do anymore. But I'm from Middlesbrough originally. I grew up in a fantastic club called Tennis World, with just loads of really good coaches, tennis players, loads of juniors. Went to a normal school, comprehensive school, did GCSEs, A levels, didn't dream of going pro, and thankfully stumbled across the American university pathway, which has kind of shaped my entire existence from 18 onwards.
Good. I'm now going to put up something on the screen, and I'm going to ask you what you think of it. Okay. It's actually a comment, or it's it's your Wikipedia page. What do you think? Is this accurate? Would you say Sarah Leah Borwell, born on the 20th of August, 1979? I hope you don't mind that being aired in public. We're actually very close in terms of our birthdays. And you're a former professional tennis player who enjoyed greater success in doubles. That's fair, right?
Yeah, my singles I got to about 199 in the
Oh,
world.
okay.
Number 2 in Great Britain. But
Hmm.
I did well, and then I got to the US Open qualifying, but as soon as I'd finished, I actually tore my shoulder, and I think I was about 26 at that point, and that knocked me out for about 6 months. And
Okay.
at the time, there was no doubles specialists on the women's side, and Louis Caillet had started working with the LTA, so I kind of hedged my bets and thought, I'm running out of time to really make the top 100. Don't have much money. Like, I was struggling juggling credit cards on the tour because it costs a fortune.
Yeah.
I went into the doubles route, and that's what allowed me to kind of enjoy the success in the Grand Slams and represent Great Britain at Fed Cup and finish my career with a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games.
Before we get into a little bit about what you're doing currently, Sarah, or even what you've been doing since you stopped playing, tell us a little bit about what is it like lower down the rankings, if you like. I mean, most of us dream of getting one point, either WTA or ATP, but we're aware of how far you went. Top 200. There's no shame in that. But what is it like? You mentioned about the credit cards and the financial situation.
Yeah, it's tough. It's funny. I was on the tour for 10 years, and probably the most fun I had were the first 5 years, because I was traveling with all my friends from college, seeing the world, ending up in like Vietnam, Mexico, India, and it was so much fun. But you're spending a fortune. You're staying with families a lot of the time, which is great, but it can be very entertaining when you're maybe with a family in Japan and you don't understand the culture very well. So it was really fun, but you're coming away from tournaments with maybe like $500, and you've done really well, but you've spent 3 grand to get there. So um, my big thing was I played Edgbaston WTA, and I was about 15,000 in debt, and I knew this is kind of the reckoning. I've got to start making decisions of if this is a worthwhile career. And I was playing Mel South, and whoever won that match got a wild card into Wimbledon for singles.
Hmm.
So, and it would have been the first time both of us had played. So it was a terrible match of tennis. We were both very nervous, and I ended up winning. And that money I got from Wimbledon was the biggest payday I'd ever have. And that actually paid my debts and gave me an extra 5K to then keep playing. So if you get stuck in that lower level, especially nowadays, because the standard is even higher, the cost of living and transport is triple. It can be very difficult to get out. So we actually lose a lot of players simply because financially it's just not possible.
I'm glad you bring that because that's a nice segue to sort of, in a way, what you're doing today. Does this experience, in a way, Sarah, help you a little bit in terms of what you're doing nowadays, in terms of empathy, etc.?
I think so. It kind of, like, when I was coming through as a junior, I wasn't a top junior. I didn't play ITFs or anything. I wasn't LTA funded or talent ID'd. And a lot of that, I didn't do great. I had a big game, but I was very inconsistent. And luckily, my coach, Nigel Garton, was just like, just keep going for it. Your game, you'll grow into it, probably when you're 21. Which, when you're telling a 17-year-old that, you think, well, that's a long time for me to start kind of doing well. But my whole goal now is to kind of find more Sarah Borwells who perhaps were kind of not top juniors at full-time school, enjoying tennis, but we keep them playing in the hope that someone like me, or like a Cameron Norrie or a Julian Cash, Henry Patton, end up coming through later on. And so it's nice to be able to talk from my experience of saying, look, if you're not a top junior, it's okay. We all have different pathways. We have different developmental timelines. Find the right pathway for you, work hard, and then you'll end up where you maybe dreamed of being, like a lot of these players do.
You mentioned Cam Norrie. You're right, he did enter the sport a bit late. Do you know much about his path into tennis?
I just know that he was kind of, and this is from the media stuff, maybe a bit of a late developer. It's still a very strong junior, but luckily found the right fit at TCU. Brilliant setup there for development, but also it's like everyone, we all take a while to kind of maybe mature, or physically, emotionally, mentally. So I think maybe it was his sophomore year when he thought, actually, if I can work harder, be a bit more kind of, maybe not party and get early nights and eat well, then I could actually progress to the next stage. And we all figure that out at different stages in our life. And you look at Cam and what he's done, and it's just incredible. But there's so many stories like that, which is excellent.
Okay, cool. Now we're into stories. I'm going to bring up this image on the screen. Congrats to the GB team. It's from your Twitter page. So just tell me a little bit about this image, first of all.
Well, it's brilliant because it brings together everything we've all kind of worked towards with the different pathways. Because yes, American University was right for me, but we also have British University, where the tennis setup is excellent and it's getting better and better every year. And so this is just a fantastic image because the team got all the way to the final. They got a silver medal. They lost to a very strong American team, very high level of tennis. But you have a mixture of both the British University student athletes and American University. And a lot of these now, like Charlie Broom, Nadia Rawson, Emily Arbuthnot, they're all going onto the tour and transitioning on. And that's the whole thing. Like, keep the pathways open. If you want to go to British University, excellent. You know that there's a load of really good options there. And then if you enjoy your tennis enough, then maybe you can transition onto the pro tour.
What about the financial elements? So, I mean, who are you basically working with? Is it somebody who is, let's say, I mean, you're in the US nowadays, but say somebody in the UK, they're playing, they're getting better. One or two people are even suggesting that they're quite a good player and they might make it. Is that where you come in, or what's your role in facilitating their potential success in the sport?
My big thing is looking after everyone, because for years it was always just like that very small 1% of the elite players who they get a lot of pressure on them to do well. They don't always kind of make it, or they've burnt out by the time they're 20. So my whole thing is we have so many players coming through Talent ID or mini tennis, but we lose a lot of them. And it's the same on every sport. By about 15, there's a 50% dropout rate. But I just think if there's more pathways available and we all make everyone aware of the different pathways, then we can keep more and more players playing. So I think that's kind of the big thing for me. I want to help everyone. I have players of all levels. I had an Arthur Ferry, who everyone knows. He's at Stanford, but he's playing on the Pro Tour, almost qualified at Wimbledon. And then I have someone who just loves tennis, likes playing on the team. And if we're dealing with a UTR range, is a 4 UTR, which is a good standard, but it's all relative. There's loads of different levels out in America, so it's available to everyone.
You were at Wimbledon this year, right? Tell us what you were up to specifically there.
I was. Well, I came over to see a lot of my players compete, but also it was nice to see Marcus and Claire Curran on the Radio Wimbledon. So we had a really good chat.
This is it, right? This is it.
Yeah.
This is you on. Yeah.
Is
that Marcus Buckland, by the way?
Yes, he's brilliant. It was so much fun. I could have spoken for hours. So it was nice to watch Marcus and Claire engage and everything. So it was just a really nice kind of 20 minutes talking about the pathways and just seeing how amazing all of the former university student athletes were doing at Wimbledon this year. There was about 18 of them playing from the university pathway, which is excellent.
Yeah, Marcus is actually coming on the show next week. We're going to have a chat about the WTA year, which is really good of him. Excuse me. And tell me a little bit about what is your day-to-day, Sarah? So when you're hopefully I don't lose my voice entirely. Last week it nearly happened mid-podcast. I think it's just a case of a bit of water. But tell us about your day-to-day work right now, Sarah.
Well, I'm getting a lot better with being on social media, because I'm realizing now that the younger crew love a good Instagram story or TikTok. And so it was something which a lot of my time before, when I first started out, I did 5,000 miles in 21 days once I did 20 presentations in 21 days when I first started. And with COVID, everyone now is at least kind of accepting of Zoom and presentations on there, but the social media side has really kind of exploded. So I'm making sure the messages are going out there. Tennis Smart was 10 years of fun and building it for all the British student athletes, but I actually then merged into a bigger company called Keystone Sports, which is just it's amazing for me because it allows me now to grow all the other ideas I had of wanting to support players through university onto the Pro Tour, wanting to help them find their career. So I'm part of Keystone Sports now, which has 6 other placement companies in it. So a lot of the time now my role is still the same, but it's on a greater scale because we partnered with Tennis Europe. So we're just wanting the message to get out to all nationalities of, hey, keep playing tennis, do well at school. The opportunity to come out to American university is incredible, and you would have that chance.
Tell us about the financial aspect, though. I mean, like I said, if you're a teenager, how is that possible? Should we say if I want to play tennis or I want to go to the US and improve my game but continue my education? How is the financial aspect to that? I mean, do I need to have 10,000 in the bank, 50,000 in the bank? Do I need how does that facilitate? Do I need to get a scholarship? Is there a way of getting this?
Yeah, and that's what's nice again. It's dependent on your tennis level. So like a British university, you get in based on your grades. And then in the September, when you're on campus, you try out for one of the 3 or 4 teams. But America, you're actually being recruited as a tennis player first. So a coach they'll always use the UTR website, throw your name down. Okay, can Sarah play in my team? Yes. Let's check her academics. Is she eligible? Has she done all the right subjects? Can we get her through admissions? And if those things jibe straight away, then the coach will contact you. But for girls especially, if you can get into the 8 UTR, which is the kind of ranking platform that we all tend to use right now, then the opportunities of full scholarship are very high. And that means everything's paid for. So as a parent, all you have to think about is buying that flight to get your daughter over to America, and then the travel insurance. The money being generated around Division One, especially right now, is, well, it's obscene, to be honest. Like, the money being given to student athletes is just higher than it's ever been. So back in the day when I went, it was all free and it was amazing. And I got a check each month, which kept me going. But now players are getting cost of attendance on top, which is another $6,000 on top of the full scholarship. And then there's another thing which is coming in where if you're on time graduating, you'll get another 6,000 each year. So the money at the top end is very, very high. If your tennis level is a little bit lower, then you might have to have a budget. But if you think a British university is about $20,000 a year when you add everything together, it can always be a lot cheaper out here. So I have a girl who's just signed with a really good Division Two. She's paying $2,000. For boys, because there's no, like the universities, the teams, the women's teams tend to have 8 full scholarships. So you can't like take them apart. The men's tend to have 4.5 athletic scholarships to divide between 8 to 10 players. So if you're a very, very high level player, like a Toby Samuel at South Carolina, you might be on a full scholarship. So, but when you're going into it as a parent of a 12-year-old, it's good to kind of think about having a budget of $15,000, and that will cover everything. But the better you do academics and tennis, the cheaper it becomes.
Tell us a bit about Toby Samuel. I've just he's 537 in the world right now, so he's got an ATP ranking. He's 20 years old. Is he sort of the sort of brightest prospect? I know he's 20, so some people, of course, are a bit younger on the tour already. But tell us a bit about him.
Well, he's one that the LTA, so Mark Hilton at the LTA is now kind of looking after these elite players at the time. Like, they'll keep changing, I'm sure, who they're looking at because everyone's development's different. But Toby's at South Carolina, where Paul Jubb went. So a brilliant setup for development and just a really good environment. Bit like TCU as well. A lot of Brits are heading there knowing that they can play a lot of pro events, maybe in the fall or during the summers. So they can start chipping away at that pro ranking. So when they do kind of, maybe when Toby graduates, he'll then want to go pro, or like Paul Jubb and Cameron Young, he might leave on his junior year without graduating and turn pro then. So there's actually a lot of young British guys in college, like Arthur Ferry. He's playing a lot on the tour right now while he's at Stanford. There's a big amount of them who are going to come through in 2, 3, 4 years time and make big inroads into the pro tour.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Tell us a bit about these Mythbusters that I've just been reading about on your Instagram page.
Well, it's like anything in life. Everyone has an opinion. I do when I watch England football on Twitter. Like, I'll think I'll know what more than Gareth Southgate. So when people are going through this process in England, there'll be someone who will give them a bit of advice, or so-and-so told me this, or my next door neighbor said this. And it's generally not correct, but it puts them into a tailspin of anxiety. So it's just trying with social media, trying to get the message out there so that all of these incorrect kind of bits of information you'll get, actually that's not true. I know what the truth is there. So whether it's with academics or what college coaches are looking for, or the divisions is a big thing. Everyone thinks Division 1 is like the Premier League in football, and you don't want to go to D2 or 3, when in reality, it's what's right for you as a player. The best fit for you might be Division 3, and your friend might do better in Division 1. So it's just trying to break away from all these different kind of information you'll get from different people who perhaps haven't even been to America, but it's what they've heard and they're trying to do the right thing. But gets misunderstood along the way.
Yeah. What about the players that come over to the US hoping to, to make it, of course, hopefully have a good time as well. I mean, they are still teenagers. But things don't necessarily go as far as they want. I mean, I think everybody probably needs to have that in mind before they go, right? I mean, do you prepare some of them, even if you think they've got a lot of potential at, say, 13, 14, are you already sort of preparing them for the possibility that, by the way, it might not work out? Or how do you manage that?
No,
How do
I
you manage
think that's the whole kind of university pathway talk with them. And because no one knows, like no one thought I would make top 100 in the world. I didn't even know that, but I started figuring it out when I was 22 that in Hamburg at UNLV, when I was finishing at nationals, my final year, was just like, oh, what's your plan? Are you going pro? And I'd never really thought about it. I thought, well, it's better than getting a real life job. So I'll try it. So I just kind of stumbled across all these different pathways. But I think everyone's kind of at 14, no one knows what's going to happen. The big telling sign is, do you work hard? Are you determined? Every time you get a knockback, can you get back up? Many people can't. Many can't. Like I worked hard, but I didn't work as hard as Andy Murray. Like to be able to like just constantly every second of the day think about your tennis, I couldn't do that. Like I got to a point which was great, but I didn't stretch enough. I didn't kind of do yoga. I didn't do the things that probably would have helped me not get shoulder injuries. So I think it's just about getting players on their pathway. They enjoy the tennis. And then at 21, like a Toby Samuel, he might say, actually, I've just been offered a job for 100K a year. I'm going to go down the career route instead. Tennis, I'm kind of over. Or he might be ready to go pro.
Just having a look at a few images you've got here on your Instagram page. Arthur Ferry, who is obviously from the UK as well. Actually, I'll bring this up on the screen so you can see exactly what I'm looking at. By the way, something on your Wikipedia page, which I thought was interesting. It says your career high doubles ranking is 65. So maybe that's suggesting that, maybe a comeback, maybe a bit more stretching and a bit more yoga, Sarah.
Well, yeah, I actually, unfortunately, I'd hit my highest ranking with my doubles partner, Raquel Cops-Jones, who's now the Washington State college coach. And we'd just beaten Renee Stubbs and Lisa Raymond. And it was, we'd been struggling. It was such a big win. And then the next match, I got hit on the back of my head and we won the match. But luckily, the WTA trainers are incredible. And they were just like, well, just sit with us for a bit and see how you do. And once the adrenaline stopped, I was slurred speech. I'd lost my balance and I had a bruise on the brain. So that was when my career started to, I lost a lot of time there. I came back for the Commonwealth Games, which was fantastic. But by that point, I was really enjoying supporting the British tennis players with Understanding America. So it was an easier transition. But yeah, my head injury is what kind of prevented me from moving that ranking higher. Maybe I would have learned to stretch as well. I don't know. Maybe not.
You mentioned the Commonwealth Games. Is that where you got your bronze medal? Is that the same one, the same year?
Yeah, I played with Ken Skupski. It was the first time they'd ever had tennis in, and it was in Delhi in India, which it was how everyone loves to talk about places aren't ready for the athletes. And it was quite an eye-opener because the apartment wasn't ready, really. So we had quite a fun week of just dealing with different things.
I've got an image up here actually of the aforementioned Cam Norrie that we touched on earlier there. Listen, I hear as well about Maxime Cressy. Obviously, this is an American player, or French-American, I should say, to be honest with you. He's gone through the college system, and it's something really that I think most of us, including me, are not. When we hear these comments, we don't. What does that mean? I think most people in the UK, in particular, although I live in Germany, I was born and grew up in the UK. I think most of us don't really understand what that means. Do you know what I mean by saying that?
Yeah, it's getting more where people understand, but even tennis players in the UK still aren't fully aware of it. And this is after me doing presentations for 20 years. So the nice thing about American universities, it acts as a bridge to the tour or to the working world. So you might love being on a team and playing tennis, like Alicia there. She's obviously just made the news because she did so well in the Billie Jean Cup with her partner Olivia Nichols, who went to a British university. So it just gives you that extra time to kind of mature, grow into your game, enjoy being a part of a team so the stress isn't fully on you. And then you make the decision when you're ready and when you're 22 and you think, actually, do I have financially, am I ready? Emotionally, am I at the right level? Instead of making the decision at 19 when you're in Mexico on your own and you've lost 5 tournaments in a row first round and you're panicked. But I was looking at stats before I came on. The college tennis ranking guy does amazing stats, and there's basically, for the men's side, there's 12 men in former college players in the top 100 for singles, which is incredible if you think of it as a kind of a federation. That's 12 people coming through in the top 100. In doubles, we all know is incredible. There's 34 in the top 100, but there's 6 in the top 10 who are former college, which on the men's side is amazing. The women's is still good. There's 3 in the top 100 and 17 for doubles, but there's not as many women playing, and there's not as many of the kind of elite juniors coming in. But that's all going to change because people are starting to see that actually it's the same pathway for the men. So it's just going to be as good for the women, but we just got to get more and more girls coming in at 18.
What about the media and the role that they play? I mean, we've got a nice article here from the Billie Jean Cup. Do you think the media, like including myself, I mean, I'm very small fry when it comes to media influence at the moment, but do you think we give enough attention to this area of the sport, you know, the youngsters and their paths, or are we all obsessed with the Nadals and Djokovic's of this world?
Well, yeah, I think that's probably part of the problem, but I guess you go and watch the people you want to watch. So Serena Williams could fill a whole stadium just playing tiddlywinks. Like, you're going to go and see someone whose name you've seen over and over again. I think being a doubles specialist, and Jamie Murray said this many times, it would be great to have more focus on doubles because that's what most people who watch actually play. And people will come and watch you if they follow you in the media, if they build a kind of rapport up with you and a relationship. They're going to go and watch Jamie Murray or Neil Skupski. So I think it would be nice, but it's tough, isn't it? We all focus on the Novaks or the Serenas or the Roger Federers, but the strength in depth now of tennis on the tour is far better than when I played. And the story of the university players coming through is an exciting one. And you see, like, watching these two play, like, it's such a fantastic picture. And that's after years of kind of not really expecting it. And this year's just been amazing for them. They've broken through, and they said the goal is to win a Grand Slam, and they could, which is brilliant.
Yeah, right. I mean, we did have a show last week actually called Let's Talk Doubles, and they also highlight the same thing, Sarah, that we watch 99% of the time singles, but when it comes to picking up the racket and getting out there and playing, we're as likely, if not more likely, to play doubles. We all enjoy it. Listen, we are coming to the end of the show now, but I do have a couple more questions for you regarding, first of all, the Billie Jean King Cup. You just touched upon it again there. Did you pay much attention to it? Did you have a vested interest in it because of Alicia, for example?
Yeah, and Annie Kay, I used to travel with Anne as
Okay.
well. So it's just, yeah, anytime Britain plays, I'll support and I'll watch. But it's so nice to see on the men's side as well, where you have the team as a mixture of university pathway athletes and players who've gone pro at 18. And I just think that's they're all such great role models for the younger generation, because none of us can be Andy Murray. Like, it's very hard to be an Andy Murray, but we can bring players through. So maybe we have more in the top 100 who who do a lot better than kind of what they may have done if they hadn't found the right pathway.
Yeah, indeed. Listen, Sarah, is there anything that I haven't touched upon? I mean, I shared your Instagram page there. In fact, we'll probably bring that back up on the screen in a second because there are some nice images there. In fact, we'll just have a quick scroll through them. Give me a second and I'll share that on our screen. Sorry, we're going to say goodbye to the Billie Jean Cup. And by the way, I mean, is there any better example of how a team can have a big effect in tennis? Even we think of other sports where team is such an important factor, but we looked at perhaps the rankings of the British players, obviously with no Emma Raducanu there in particular, and we started to think, oh, okay, but actually the team can often exceed expectations as a result, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what's so fun about team tennis and university tennis. Like, anything can happen really, and you can. And for me, I was quite a nervous junior, so playing singles on my own in a tournament, I didn't find that fun. But when I played county week for Durham and Cleveland, I loved it. And I think that's what keeps, especially girls, keeps more and more girls playing because they're in a team environment. Yeah, this is a good
Cool.
one as well.
Yeah, doubles dominance. So tell us about this image and what the message is.
It's just amazing. On the men's side, especially the doubles are kind of just taking over the tour. Like with 6 in the top 10. And this was all in was it the quarterfinals? All of them were.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think is that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
including Snopsky. Yeah, of course.
it's
Yeah, I
literally
mean,
incredible.
yeah, and of course, by the way, did you? I am going off a tangent here, just seeing a picture of Rajiv Ram. Did you have a thought on his absence from the Davis Cup? By the way,
I did, but I'm getting better at being politically correct. But yeah, it was a strange thought not to take your best doubles player, who's obviously he did really well in the end of year tournament. So, and he's a nice guy. Like he came from Illinois, the team there, which was just one of the best college teams ever to have kind of taken place. And he's just a nice team player. So I guess it's just different personalities that maybe don't fit.
yeah, but I don't think that is the most controversial take, Sarah. So, I mean, if you were to say something crazy, that would be fine. But I think most people's take has been don't understand why he wasn't there, given how prominent and how good he has been in doubles, particularly this year. Listen, Sarah, is there any final thing you want to share? I mean, I've already shared your Twitter handle as well, which is in the live chat for those of you tuning in or even watching retrospectively. Is there anything else you want to promote or mention before we say our goodbyes?
Well, we're all getting, as 40-plus-year-olds who aren't great on social media, we are getting better at understanding TikTok. And with us partnering with Tennis Europe, Keystone Sports, that's going to be kind of our TikTok and Instagram. We're going to get a lot of current college players and pros, former college players are on the tour, who will do 30-second TikTok stories for us. Is it called stories on TikTok? See, I don't even.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And listen, I'm this pretty much the same age as you, but I believe so. If not, I know on YouTube it's called Shorts, but TikTok, whatever, captions or stories. Yeah. So, they're going to do 30-second little bursts.
Yeah, so we've gone away from the long videos because we know none of us have time now to watch things, but there's going to be short bursts of players who are in college showing the facilities, talking about their environment, and also players on the pro tour. So I think it's worth subscribing to the Keystone Sports Instagram and TikTok, and it just gives you an idea of what to expect.
Sarah, it's been great. I asked for half an hour. We've gone a little over the time. I hope you don't mind.
I told you I could talk for 2 hours, really. I could just keep going.
I have another episode to record on the LTA, funny enough, in about half an hour. But we'll see how that pans out. But listen, Sarah, it's been great having you on. Former doubles player who enjoyed her greatest success in doubles, but perhaps your greatest success is actually happening now and will continue in the future in terms of education and tennis and the next generations.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me on.
Sarah, it's been a pleasure. What we do now is we do a little play out, which is this little video here. And we say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.